Although the United States is often seen as more supportive and accommodating of those living with mental health issues than other parts of the world, even the United States leaves a lot to be desired. It is true that therapy and medication are available through psychiatry in the United States, but the reality is that many people will never seek treatment for fear of the social stigma that still often surrounds the topic of mental health. American and global media have done an unfortunately good job at creating and sustaining this idea that individuals living with any mental health issues are supposedly crazy or broken. I'd like to begin with providing one such negative media portrayal. In Thor: The Dark World, a movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a scene starts with good intentions but then quickly takes a turn for the worse. After witnessing some rather bizarre happenings, the character Dr. Eric Selvig states, "There's nothing more reassuring than realizing that the world is crazier than you are." However, Selvig then proceeds to throw away a gallon-sized bag of medication. To me, this helps reinforce the type of ideas often seen on internet pictures that state something similar to, "I don't need medication, I have the outdoors." While I'm always glad if someone can get by without the use of medication, this kind of culture discourages anyone from taking medication writ large. Though often untalked about, such negative portrayals are similar to media representations of other minority groups, such as those of women, people of color, or LGBTQ individuals. They are usually portrayed by someone that does not identify with the characteristics they are showing, usually presented as the butt of the joke, and in all situations the impact can be dramatically dangerous. It's important to note that not all individuals living with a mental disorder are suicidal. For those that are, being told by the media that there is something wrong with you could be all the reason you need to take your own life. What's worse is some people who do not initially have any mental health issues may develop a disorder due to negative representation of a visible minority group they do belong to, whether shown through their gender, race, or other identifiers. Of depression and suicide, the author David Foster Wallace once wrote, "The so-called psychotically depressed person who tries to kill herself does not do so out of, quote, hopelessness or any abstract conviction that life's assets and debits do not square, and surely not because death seems suddenly appealing. The person in whom its invisible agony reaches a certain unendurable level will kill herself the same way a trapped person will eventually jump from the window of a burning high-rise. Make no mistake about people who leap from burning windows. Their terror of falling from a great height is still just as great as it would be for you or me standing speculatively at the same window just checking out the view, i.e., the fear of falling remains a constant. The variable here is the other terror, the fire's flames. When the flames get close enough, falling to death becomes the slightly less terrible of two terrors. It's not desiring the fall, it's terror of the flames, and yet nobody down on the sidewalk looking up and yelling 'don't' and 'hang on' can understand the jump. Not really. You'd have to have personally been trapped and felt flames to really understand a terror way beyond falling." Another aspect to consider is that inaccurate representations can deepen the sense of not being understood. Researchers from the departments of psychology at the University of California, Los Angeles, and Stanford University published a study in 2014 that found individuals are more likely to experience positive emotions when they feel understood than those individuals who do not feel understood. Personally, I've come to realize that whenever I extensively try to explain my point of view to someone, I'm doing so with the hope that they can merely empathize and understand my thought process, whether it is right or wrong. And that's an integral reason why it's important to portray accurate representations in the media. The more examples a person can point to and say, "I'm not crazy, this is what I'm going through," the more comfortable they would be in seeking potentially invaluable help. Take, for instance, this scene from Iron Man 3. In it, Tony Stark is being bombarded with too many stimuli, making it impossible to focus on any one thing. When the crayon in his hand snaps, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. His heart pounds in his chest, he becomes dizzy, he practically can't see straight. Anxiety can feel physiologically like a heart attack. After prolonged endurance of these symptoms, a person's body feels the same terror that Wallace explained earlier. Tony's and many other people's anxiety stems from not being able to control the world around him, despite feeling like he should be able to. And even though it doesn't explicitly talk about mental health, I'd like to talk about the impact the movie It had on me. While everyone else in the theater was laughing and enjoying the antics of Pennywise the Clown, I was legitimately frightened. While it seems absurd for the movie's characters to be scared of this silly entertainer, I realized it didn't matter how absurd it looked from the outside looking in. It was a representation of their deepest fears, and that's how anxiety feels. To describe what you're worried about to others, they can be just as blind as the movie's parents that don't see blood. In the case when you can convey your concerns to others, they seem ridiculous things to be worried about. The theater audience sees merely an almost jovial clown, while the characters see something that affects them much more deeply. And as the movie ends, the audience finally sees the sinister being that tormented so many for so long.